I think the second one for us is looking at impact. My one worry when we talk about AI skilling is there are these millions numbers we are talking about, and there are a lot of questions that are coming about things like skilling washing or whitewashing. Where are these numbers? Are young people actually getting supported? So having an outcome focus is very critical for us. That is this about helping them build a career? Is this about future-proofing them or making them resilient to changes that are going to come in workforce? Is it about actually connecting them to jobs now? Because there are all kinds of young people, there are different stages in career. So how do we connect it to impact? And I think finally is, who are your partners? I think when you look at the urgency and the needs in the country, Microsoft, Intel, any of the groups here can't do it alone. So if you look at all of our programs, the first thing we try and do is how do we bring others along? How do we leverage our voice to kind of build programs that are sustainable in the long term? So anything that we do will at least have 3 to 4 other corporate partners who are either Microsoft business partners or they could be our CSR partners. If we look at the culture of innovation, it is also pretty much relevant to our organizations as well. So if we look at large topics like RTC or Mahindra, how are they ensuring that the culture of innovation is always there, such that the latest technology or the latest capability is something that is being adopted within their team?
At Mahindra Group, innovation for decades has been a cornerstone for success. It's always been a plan that we've always pursued. Given the current speed at which AI is enabling innovation, I think it's important to also realize the flip side of it. I think Mr. Krishnan talked about both sides of it. Going too slow on AI is a risk, but going too fast in making decisions on what AI is doing is also a risk. And hence, innovation, real innovation now in AI is about finding the balance where you can have outcome-driven AI impact and not usage-driven, like the report also talked about and different very differently presented. At the same time, balance it with how many use cases, how many small pilots can you do to make people believe that AI actually can do something. So I think the innovation in some ways has to balance now between these two things. And Mahindra Group, of course, from all the way to doing innovation at the lowest level across the country in our manufacturing facilities, in our offices, we have custom innovation celebration and catalyst, all the way to the top where we do an annual innovation day for the firm, where the innovation awards are presented to the top innovators across the country. I think innovation has always been celebrated as a group. But now with AI specifically, we are looking at innovation in 2 areas, innovation in what we call breakthrough innovation with AI, where there could be moving impacts to the business by applying AI to certain functions, certain job, or certain business. And also essential AI, right, where how can you make innovation work for you in your day job? Right? How can you be more efficient in becoming more personalized to a customer? How can you free up time for a dealer sales consultant to spend with the customer rather than filling forms? I think those are the kinds of innovations that are equally important and instill the right confidence that you can actually move the needle for the business when it takes time.
So, see, from a group like RTC, innovation is a very important part of the DNA. It has been the kind of we celebrate innovation in a very structured way through many layers and tiers. And innovation agenda is that inclusivity and coverage. So today we have more than 45% of our entire workforce is associated with the whole innovation process which happens across the year and across the group level. It is in the area of process innovation, whether it is in the area of product innovation, whether it is in terms of new ideas, and also field innovations, right? So you cannot leave out something where there is an encouragement for attention, So otherwise, if you just look at what is successful, you often miss out what is not successful. So we celebrate all aspects or dimensions of innovation. You have rightly touched upon the risk sides of AI, which are there, of course, but if you look at it, the innovation through technology is one of the major drivers, right? So we look at it as an independent category across whatever ideas we get. We jump thousands of ideas on a yearly basis, right from the small improvements to the major transformational shift, which is like a small individual productivity, business process efficiency versus the game-changing scenarios and opportunities which you have, whether it is in the area of life sciences, agriculture, IT services, or even the other heavy engineering, advanced engineering solutions which we deal into. What is important is to provide an environment for people to innovate, right? And with the right balances. Don't talk about those balances. So how do you offer that common framework is what we are focused on, where we have created framework in terms of infrastructure, in terms of tech advisory, in terms of also the tech supervision, so to say, right? And enabling it. So if you provide a ground for innovation, the other risks are in a way to a certain extent mitigated. And it gives an opportunity to do this. And of course, there is a reward and recognition model which works. Everybody needs a recognition, right? So unless you recognize every small win, every small good deed, you cannot have the kind of impact. Because impact is what drives at the end, what motivates a person to go and do same thing again, even if successful or unsuccessful, is that recognition, and that's the more important principle of it. So do it within the right guardrails, right construct. Try to increase the touch point and inclusion of the number of people, and recognize everything, whether it is a success or failure in a positive way.
We cover diffusing AI to the last mile, and as we think about the last mile, my question is to Manju. More specifically on MSMEs, a lot of them don't know how to apply AI. They have so many questions on, what kind of AI should I use, how do I apply it, how do I get value out of it, how do I justify it? What are the kind of interventions that we can take to educate MSMEs? I think this is probably the toughest question among all the other questions we've planned. I think firstly, in my experience, and just to give a little bit of background, I came from Singapore last year in July. One of the first things that I thought of doing is to build an AI, like kind of AI focus on MSME in our CSR work. And it's 18 months since that time, and literally we just launched a new program this last week in lockdown, right? Which just tells you that it's not an easy sector to think about versus like the work we've done with young people or the work we've done in enterprise skilling. This has been a slightly challenging one. And I think the reason is because many of them are struggling with existential issues, right? So it's not just about AI, but lots of other things that we need to work with them on, and like AI is just a tool and enabler of that. So I think that's definitely one. We found it's little fragmented, how do we build an approach to being a little bit of a challenge. But I would say what we are learning, and our focus is more on how we can enable, and it goes to the point of AI diffusion last month. The ones that need a lot of help are women-owned enterprises. So we're focusing first of all on women-owned enterprises. What we're finding is that how can we really reach them with AI? First thing, and I think Nikhil said that sometimes, that it's not about use case instances, but at Microsoft we have a lot of tools for MSMEs. And the first thing that I started with is saying, can we just take this tool and evangelize and democratize them and get more people to use it? But we found is that's not going to be very useful. You have to start with what are the two problem statements that they are struggling with. And the ones that we came up with is, well, for now, it might change, is their access to finance and access to market. these are two areas that we have to kind of help them in something. So I think this is one area. To be more sharper in identifying the focus area, we've not taken a cohort approach. I found it interesting that Nipun talked about that. Our approach has been states. If we're finding there are certain cohorts, certain states that are more prevalent in a particular state, so we said let's look at UP and AP. Look at two areas that are dramatically slightly different, especially as we look at women. And so we said we look at that, right? I think the third for us has been is that, again, back to the point I made is, what is this woman-owned enterprise going to do with AI at the end of it? Right? So are you just killing them because there's a metric somewhere that you have to kill them, but what are they going to use it for? So can we develop tools that they can use at the end of the day, right? And we've done a lot of focus discussion groups to really understand that. But however, this will not let you scale, right? We're not talking about 2,000 or 3,000. We're looking at like at least 1 million over the next 3 years that we're trying to do. And I think there, again, it's the point I'm repeating again, but it's really critical, is how do you work with government who's ultimately working with MSMEs at scale, right? And so, we said, okay, let's look at NRLM at the beginning or SRLM at the beginning, and this is a group that we want to focus more on and institutionalize our work. And I think finally it is, again, particularly in MSME, they need so much. It's not just about technology, right? How do you partner with others? Because Microsoft, I can't bring access to finance to them, right? I can create tools that help with some of that, but not really bring that. So we are looking at partnering, we're already speaking to them, looking at SDR, say Bank of India, right? This is the core startup for them, it's business for them. How do we bring them into a CSR project, right? Or working with, let's say, MasterCard Inclusive Center, which is investing a lot of funds over the next few years. So these are some ways I think. I don't have a model, I don't have an answer. Maybe 1 year down the line, I can give you, like a lot of my peers have said, these are the 3 approaches we have. I don't have that now. We're trying a lot of things, and after the year, we really hope that we will have a model next year.
Thank you so much, Manju. I just have one follow-up question on what you just mentioned, which is, I know Microsoft is partnering with multiple stakeholders to enable MSMEs, but is there something that the ecosystem of, let's say, corporate startups and policymakers can do to enable, MSMEs better? Is there something in your view and in your experience that you want to add on that as well?
So I feel that I do a lot of work with startups, especially around social impact. And I do feel that a lot of them are, again, building a lot of solutions for MSMEs. But I don't know if, the term I'm a little reluctant to use, but I'll still use it, is that in my experience in 18 months, that all our approaches have been fragmented. Each one of us is looking at our own lens, and why is MSME important from that lens. I haven't been, and maybe others here in the group can talk more about it, I haven't even been part of a single conversation where all of us have come together and looked at MSME sector, right? Maybe I'm missing something here, but I think that could be the first starting point, right? And arriving at a common framework for looking at common goals for that sector, right? So I would say that would be the starting point. I'm a big believer in the group that we are serving determining what they want to do with, whether that is AI or any technology, right? And I think that's a very critical part, and how do we make them part of the solution itself, right? Instead of us coming together. So in your question next time, maybe you just add, including MSME groups themselves in solving for what they want to do. I think that those two things for me immediately seem the most relevant, but again, I'm qualifying this by saying we don't know enough and we're still learning.
My next question to Ms. Shri. As we think about AI for all, and because some of our other sectors beyond the ones that are already adopting, what are some measures that we can take better to facilitate that the AI skilling over there as well?
So whenever we talk about AI skilling, there are 3 vectors which we focus on. And I think Professor Tripathi touched on one of them, where he said that compute facilities are very limited. This is a reality we have to live with. So when we go back to the 3 vectors, the first is access to a mindset, right? When we spoke about the MSMEs and one we were talking about what Shri was, We've all heard and read about the concept of business process engineering, but how do we apply it in an AI-driven world is something which we still don't know. It's not what we are doing and evolving with AI, it is what we should not evolve with AI. That's equally important. So getting an AI mindset, no matter whether we're dealing with citizens, students, schools, colleges, or in fact even businesses, that becomes very important. The second piece is actually learning those skill sets, right? What are those skill sets that we need to learn? And this is not just pure tech skill sets we're talking about. It's not like making everybody who has to become familiar with Python and coding, etc., etc. This is more about learning to apply AI. What are the skill sets I need to get as an individual who's living in a world which is going to be more or less driven by AI in multiple ways and means? Those are the skill sets which become extremely important. And the third is access to limited compute facility, right? Because you need access to tool sets, relevant tool sets, to be able to make effective use of AI. So whenever we talk about skilling, I think we can't talk about skilling in isolation. It's not learning skills. And learning skills is very easy to do in today's day and age. You can go online and pick up any skill, any relevant skill, and say that, yes, I've learned it, and I have a certificate to prove it. But actually it's more important that whether I have learned the mindset, which will tell me how to apply that skill efficiently in my workspace, and more importantly, whether I have access to relevant tool sets where I can do the application piece of it. And the more we go to the grassroots, right, we've done some decent work, I would say, with aspirational districts recently. Because we've created access to all these three vectors at multiple aspirational districts, whether it's in the far northeast region of the country or whether it's in the upper north. And we wanted to see how people react to it. Some of the best, and I know use cases is not a word we should say, but some of the best solutions, rudimentary, localized, indigenous solutions, came out of these. They may not be sophisticated SLMs or LLMs at all, they may not be very sophisticated algorithms, but nonetheless, at least people learn that this is a challenge I have in and around my community, and so apply all the skills they've learned because they have access to that go solve that challenge. In the best way possible.
And I also ask you the follow-up question, is there something that the ecosystem can do better? Because we don't talk enough about these kind of sectors, these kind of geographies. So is there something that we as an ecosystem can do better?
I think there's a lot being done, but again, I would say a lot being done in isolation. Everybody has their own specific pilots we all keep talking about. We have our interventions we keep talking about. But public-private partnership is having a shared vision and shared intent. And I think the work we've done with Violet, thanks to Dr. Tripathi and the work, how as a company can all come together. So have that shared vision and what is the thing we want to do, and then go drive it together. So that shared vision, shared interest is something I just all of us need to still continue to work.
Thank you so much. This was a very enriching session, at least for me. I have noted down a lot of these points. Before I close, I would like for Dr. Shri to share with you the words in his closing remarks.
Thank you. Very interesting session. A lot of ideas have come from very diverse groups. And just some advice also before my point. That the very first thing we could realize that skilling in AI is a very early stage. A lot more has come out before very well said that one skill would like to be very important. The remaining things are changing very fast. The skill requirements. And certainly there are three, we all understand that there are three major segments: AI for all, AI for experts, and AI for technology. So these are the requirements which are there, and we understand that if you want to take skill into place, all the efforts from the government in the private domain as to work in sync, in collaboration. We have seen many good examples in isolation, but that doesn't work actually to create a mass level awareness. But one important thing I would like to add, what we have seen in the presentation of Mr. Kalra also, that number of patents in AI India is very less. See, number of patents are having is very less that will not happen just because that we are not creating things. That maybe due to lack of awareness to protect your IP. So when we think about the skilling in AI, we should also integrate this part, the intellectual property protection. Like you told that some very early kind of things, but why they are not protecting them? Why they are not taking it? So, and from where the money will come. So that's a very important factor which will lead to innovation. When I was having a study and I found that many universities, they started finding patent in India. And that was a very alarming thing, Probably at some time, when you have some very good thing and you find that it has been patented by somebody else, and you think it is your invention. So that day will come and then you will not be able to convert it to the good product also. So this is a very, very important point when we are talking about the skilling. All the smallest things which you create should also be immediately protected. That is the one important thing I would like to say.
Thank you so much, Doctor. To just summarize this session, we started with 3 themes. First was to drive AI scaling and adoption at an all-wide level. Here we had some very interesting points like, number 1, it is important to ensure that everyone, irrespective of role, should be skilled, right, on basic use of AI, awareness of what exactly AI can do. Number 2, at a business level or function level, what is the art of the possible? That also the field that we can go really deep on, and there was also a discussion on AI for tech, wherein we can keep on pushing the frontier. There was a mention on the use of champions to percolate that knowledge beyond tech teams at scale. And that's how we spoke about driving skilling and adoption beyond at an all-wide level. As we go to the second theme, which was building a sustained culture for innovation, we spoke at a national level first. There, it is important to build an ecosystem which is outcome-focused or value-focused, and that can start at the school or the college level so that we ensure that the flow of new talent, is fully skilled. The current workforce also needs to be enabled, and this is, beyond the sectors where we're seeing a concentrated focus, because otherwise we don't want the risk of being irrelevant over there. At an enterprise level, ensuring that as innovation is happening, it is also value focus is important. So innovation can be celebrated through breakthrough innovation, at the same time, having that focus on value and what exactly is it that we are achieving with that innovation. On the third theme, which was on populating the AI skilling to MSMEs and the other margins, we first spoke about how it is important for us to start talking about MSMEs as a whole. We don't talk enough about MSMEs. We don't talk about the various sectors which are not adopting AI as much. Having a common framework, ensuring that the ecosystem works towards that framework starts becoming very important. And as we do that, there should be a mindset towards, access towards AI skilling should be there. There should be more access towards compute, and that's how we can, help these sectors as well. Thank you so much. I hope this was an enriching session to all, and it is helpful.
Thank you, Shweta, and thank you, panelists, for taking out the time, and of course, the chairperson, Dr. Madhu Tripathi, for joining us today. Here, of course, we've heard about the analysis of the skilling thing, how that needs to be taken forward. Shweta did wrap it up with the various insights which could be there. I'd just like to also mention, as part of the key various initiatives are on in this area. One of the things, and since Suman is there, I thought, and the secretary is going to join us in the next session. Vicky is working with the members, and we would be soon announcing India-Singapore AI Hub, which is, of course, a bilateral function. We are talking about various parameters, how I would say, the relationship on the AI thing will be more developed between India and Singapore, and skilling will form an important component of our state. I thought it would be important interest for all of you. We'll come back to you with the details, and we also look forward to your support in getting into it. Mahindra, MSA, BBS, Token is already on board, and we will be looking more. But we will have more detailed excellent discussion also in this during we hope to have it during AI Impact Summit. But this is something which we thought would be of interest. With this, we'd like to thank the panelists and the moderator, and of course the chairperson. I will now hand it over to the Lord for facilitation.
Thank you, panelists, for an enlightening session. And now I would like to request Saita ma'am to felicitate our session chair, Mr. Mangal Mohan Tripathi, with a green certificate. Thank you, sir. Now I would like ma'am to felicitate Mr. Amol Deshpande from Chief Digital Officer and Head Innovation RPG Group. Now I would like ma'am to felicitate Bhuvan Lodha, CEO, AI Division, Mahindra Group. Now I would like to facilitate Ms. Shweta Khurana, Senior Director, APJ, Government Partnership and Initiatives in Bery. And now I would like ma'am to facilitate Ms. Shweta Jaishankar, Principal, PCBA. May I request all the speakers to have a group photograph?